Today, the Biden administration says you can't find formula to feed your baby. Just call your doctor, because we got to ship a bunch of it over the border. Also, is Elon Musk's Twitter deal imploding? We've got all of that and more coming up, and it all starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. Happy Friday. I am Sarah Gonzalez, and I am now joined by BlazeTV contributor Alex Stein, also host of Conspiracy Castle, which you should be subscribed to. And we will later be joined by Sydney Watson. But Alex, it's you and me for right now.
Well, let me just tell you something. It's an honor to be here. You know, this is the tag team that the New World Order does not want. And, you know, you started off with the baby shortage. Let me just say that
No, baby formula shortage, not baby shortage.
Well, there is because of the abortion. But what I'm trying to say is this, is that, guys, I can lactate. And so I think that, you know, these men, yeah, I can lactate very well. So, you know, if you guys need baby formula, just call me. I'll be pumping all night. So for the people watching Blaze TV, and I prefer to sell it to Blaze TV subscribers.
Contact Alex if you are in need of men's breast milk.
It's extra special formula. I mean, this is going to be strong. If you want your baby to have strong genes, good hair,
that's
teeth.
Not how genes work.
That's how it works. His teeth will grow in way faster if they start drinking my breast milk. Trust me, I drink it myself. Look at my teeth; they're great. So,
so I want to get to. Nice to see you, Alex,
as
always. I want to get to the administration's handling of this baby formula shortage, because obviously this was caused by Abbott Labs shutting down their plant after there was a bacteria found in their baby formulas. This was done in conjunction with the government, so it was kind of a collaborative effort to shut down that plant so that they could figure out what was going on. And the Biden administration is being asked about what should parents do? What are they going to do? What should they do if they run out of this baby formula? Because unfortunately, not all women, well, I should say not all birthing people are as lucky as you.
Yes.
And can lactate. There are numerous issues with women, with the babies who sometimes can't tolerate the breast milk for whatever reason. A lot of times they don't know why they can't tolerate the breast milk. So there are a lot of women. Look, we can get into the issue with the convenience factor of just putting your baby on formula because you don't care to take the time to breastfeed. We could get into that, but I digress. I'd rather get into the fact that there are, for whatever reason, there are a lot of women who need the baby formula, and the administration just doesn't seem to care, as they, by the way, are sending formula to the southern border. We'll get into that, but I want to first get into Jen Psaki blaming parents for the formula shortage and just saying, well, I mean, they should just talk to their doctors if they have a problem. Watch.
But if you are a parent who's looking for formula right now, struggling to find what you need, do you have even a rough guess of how long these shortages are going to last? What should parents be bracing for here?
Well, we've already seen an increase in supply over the past couple of weeks. What we are seeing, which is an enormous problem, is hoarding. People hoarding because they're fearful. That is one element of it, and people hoarding because they are trying to profit off of fearful parents. So that is also something we're focused on.
Since you said it was a public health question, which agency should that question be directed to? Just the very practical, immediate question of if you can't find formula and you need it for your baby to eat, what should they be doing?
We would certainly encourage any parent who has concerns about their child's health or well-being to call their doctor or pediatrician.
Because the doctor is somehow going to make the formula just appear magically, I guess. Alex, I want to get your take on this, but I do want to play. I mean, this is the president of our country, as we know, most popular president of all time, 81 million votes in the safest and most secure election ever, Joe Biden, who was asked about this and weighed in on the matter, sort of. Watch.
Sir, message to families looking for baby formula. Do you have a message to those families?
Yes, not in this case.
Understood. A couple hours later. Understood. Thank you, sir.
Do you have a message for those mothers? Yes, but not on this occasion. I feel like now's the occasion because this is when it's happening. But
Yes.
you don't have a message for them.
But we know Joe Biden is not allowed to improv. But I want to actually go back to the first clip. Jen Psaki is showing a little bit of cleavage. I think she's ready for her MSNBC
Wasn't
debut.
I've never seen her in such a low-cut top.
No, look at that.
I know.
Go, you go, girl. I kind of like that.
I think today is her last day, isn't it?
And that's what she's
I
letting
need someone in control to let me know. So maybe she's just letting it all hang out, literally.
Seriously, good for her. So I'll clap it up for that. Yeah, I mean, come on. Everybody likes. I kind of have a redhead deal, so that I like redheads. But that's just me. I'm weird. But let me tell you something. With this formula, they talk about there's only three companies that actually sell the formula. The definition of fascism is the merger of corporation and state. Why don't we have more baby formula companies? Like, why is it when one factory goes out, now we can't feed our babies? Like, this seems like a really big deal and an issue that's almost done on purpose. Like, they can send all the baby formula to the southern border, but our American babies don't have any formula. It's America last.
Well, I mean, I love that you bring that up because baby formula, a lot of people don't realize this, is one of the most regulated products in America. Most consumers would think, well, that's because they're trying to protect them because they're babies and we need to protect the innocent, I mean, not in the womb, but once they come out of the womb. Well, not even once they come out of the womb either, but
up until the moment they're born.
I mean, if there are regulations and restrictions, we want to do them is basically the government all just summarized. But so baby formula, the FDA dictates the nutrients, vitamins, sets strict rules about how formula is produced, packaged, labeled, and because of all of these regulations, a lot of Americans buy unapproved, basically black market European formulas, which, by the way, are like way cleaner, way better for you. The American ones are made from corn and all of these. If you ever look on a baby formula, the back of a baby formula package, it's really gross, actually. The European ones are way cleaner, way better for the babies, in my personal opinion, and they're not allowing them. So it's just interesting that they have created this shortage by making it so difficult for any other company you mention. It's hard to even start a company to produce baby formula because of all of the regulations and restrictions that the government has put into place in order to prevent them.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Europe because actually Europe, and we're going to talk about abortion, they actually have very strict abortion laws. And so they actually care about babies, it seems like, more than America does. And that's just the evidence that we've talked about today. But when we see the shortage happening, it's like, how do we solve it? They don't even want to answer the question. That should be another weird thing is that, when we ask them about it, they don't even have an answer. Like, they won't even say, oh, we're going to do A, B, or C. They actually just try to disregard it and then send it to the southern border. So for me, it's like they're manufacturing this crisis on purpose. Like, it's just really sad that the American people have to pay the price for the insubordination of our leaders.
So I want to get to the formula being shipped to the southern border. This is a tweet from Florida Representative Kat Kamik, who tweeted, these are two photos. So for those of you who are watching, you can see these two back to back. The first photo is from this morning at the Ursula Processing Center at the United States border. Shelves and pallets packed with baby formula. The second is from a shelf right here at home. Formula is scarce. So what I said last night when I saw Jen Psaki's comment is, the doctor, if you need to talk to your doctor, go to the doctor. The doctor just says, look, ship your rear down to the southern border, cross it, come back, and when you come back, you can grab the baby formula.
Well, it's no different. It's like when they asked Jen Psaki about COVID, why don't you recommend people going outside and getting some exercise and vitamin D? Is there any other way to help, fight COVID? She said, no, the only way is a mask and a vaccine. So that's where we're at. It's like, if you are taking your healthcare advice from Jen Psaki, guys, we're toast. I mean, they don't care about our health. As a matter of fact, they kind of want to keep us sick, in my opinion, and that could just be the conspiracy theorist inside of me. But they don't want to help us, and when we're most in need, it seems like that's when they turn their back on us the most.
So it is interesting, and you brought up the COVID situation. This was all done, the recall, the shutdown of the Abbott processing place. All of this was done because 4 babies were affected by this bacteria. Which, again, that's horrible.
Yes.
But think about how many people the vaccine has maimed and killed.
0. It's safe and effective for everyone. Even though almonds and peanuts are not safe and effective for everyone, the vaccine is the most safe and effective medicine that we've ever had. But this is the other thing, but I have to say this, even wink, wink, but we have to say this too. Dan Crenshaw, who is one of the worst rhinos in the history of America, when he was on his Twitter talking about, well, you know, it's a supply chain issue. They don't have plastics and they don't have the paper to make the boxes to send it. It's like, give me a break. They're trying to say that it's because they don't have the packaging to send us. That's why we can't feed our babies. It's just another way for them to lie and give us a misdirection and, you know, really confuse the American people.
I feel like you just needed an eye patch and you were going to...
I have one. I should have brought it. I mean, Dan Crenshaw is the worst. This guy, and, you know, obviously he signed off on sending $40 billion to the Ukraine. I mean, it's just another example of America last. These people do not want to put the American people first. And that's why, you know, we need to make America great again. We need to go ultra MAGA. That's what we need
Ultra MAGA.
Yeah,
I love it. I know they said that as an insult, and I'm like, I kind of love that.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Calling Trump the ultra MAGA king. I'm like, more of that.
Well, the left doesn't have a sense of humor. Like, they can't meme. They don't have it. So they don't realize that that is unironically cool to be called, you know, the MAGA king. To be called a king? I mean, what does that make you, Joe Biden, the court jester? I mean, it's just, they don't have a sense of humor. That's why SNL stinks. That's why all the movies that come out and stink. Just, they've lost their sense of humor. So when they're actually trying to be, you know, serious or mean, they're unironically funny.
Yeah, I want to get to, when it comes to all of this, the baby formula shortage and all of that. I know you mentioned that you can lactate, and I'm really proud of you for that, Alex. But I would like to, since you are the local conspiracy theorist, I just want to bring up Bill Gates in 2020 invested millions into BioMilk. This is a company that's trying to develop artificial breast milk to reduce the carbon footprint of mothers who choose not to breastfeed. So they are trying to launch cell-cultured human breast milk and disrupt the multi-billion-dollar infant milk formula industry within the next 4 years. But don't worry. Okay, because the fact checkers said this could not possibly have anything to do with the shortage. PolitiFact said there's no evidence that an investment in BioMilk, a startup that makes artificial breast milk, by a fund that Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates are involved in, has anything to do with the shortage. So there's no evidence that they can find. Therefore, there's nothing to see here.
Yeah, well, if they fact check it, you might as well just believe the opposite. But let me tell you something. I actually drink the BioMilk, and it's delicious. I drink it every day. Yeah, I just have a little bit of my morning coffee, and
well,
it's
what do you have? You have like the pilot program?
Yeah,
Come...
Well, if you're in it's kind of like this small Satanist club. Bill Gates and I and Jeffrey Epstein, we were all in. Poor R.I.P. Jeffrey, and they give us, you know, samples of it. And let me tell you something. I put it in my coffee in the morning, and it, you know. That's why my teeth are strong, too. I drink my own breast milk. I drink Bill Gates' breast milk. It's delicious. That's where we want to get it. We want to drink artificial breast milk. Bring it on. That's what we need, more of that.
Let's think about the things that Bill Gates is trying to make us do. He wants us to eat bugs.
Yep.
He wants us to consume artificial breast milk.
He has all the farmland.
Yeah, he's buying up all of the farmland so that you're not going to be able to eat a real cow. You have to eat like artificial cow.
Don't forget his birth control vaccines in Africa that were swinging success.
Yes. They were successful if you are trying to depopulate and sterilize.
If you're a eugenicist, that talks about. It's funny how, you know, the same guy that talked about how we need to reduce the population by 15% in order to help global warming. Now everybody's like, can you help us stay alive longer? It's kind of like, maybe he doesn't have our best interests in mind.
And also, stop putting him on freaking television as an expert for everything. I'm like, this guy created Windows.
No, and he didn't. Do you not know the story? He actually stole
it.
He stole the operating software. Okay, so how it worked is, you know, let's get into the conspiracy. How it worked is IBM computers, they didn't want to actually make the same operating software for their computers because they were smart. They were a big company. They said, it would have made us look like we had a monopoly. So they had to basically hire somebody to say they bought the operating software from. Bill Gates, another guy in Seattle, I forget his name, you can look it up. He actually bought that software from a guy, you know, for a very inexpensive price, sold it to IBM for a lot more. Became a billionaire overnight just because he's lucky. And his dad, William Gates Sr., was actually the guy that started Planned Parenthood with Margaret Sanger. So I guess it's just all coincidence. He must really love babies if his dad started Planned Parenthood.
All coincidence. Especially he loves black babies, too.
Oh, that's his favorite.
All total coincidence.
You know, that's the one thing we have to say. In a serious note, these people that are cheerleading abortion, do they not realize all these babies, a lot of them are going to be, you know, transsexual and gay? So, I mean, that's a hate crime in my opinion.
That's a great point.
Yes.
I think that they're transphobic now. We can consider them transphobic. transphobic. All right, we've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Bonner Wines. So you don't want to know what's in that wine bottle sitting on your kitchen counter. All right, traditional media is not going to tell you this. They've got oak flavoring, they've got purple dye and tons of sugar. And by the way, that's not counting all the chemicals left over from the vineyards that look more like oil refineries than the great chateaus of old. But better wines do exist. And by the way, they're not going to cost an arm and a leg, and you don't have to go to the grocery store to get them. This is Bonner Wines. They've got delicious red wines, and they're coming to you without all of the chemicals and gross dyes. They grow these grapes at a very extreme altitude vineyards, so these produce a wine unlike any other. You got to try them, and right now you can get these rare wines at half the retail price. No need for a promo code. You're going to get 50% off the shipping on top of that. This really is good. They keep running out of it, you guys, so make sure that you snatch some up. It is BonnerPrivateWines.com/Y. That is BonnerPrivateWines.com/Y.
Sarah, don't forget, red wine has resveratrol, which is an anti-aging chemical.
Yes, so good for your heart. Go do it, guys. Do it now. Senate Republicans on Wednesday, we discussed this. Oh, by the way, welcome to the program, Sydney Watson.
I'm here.
I did tease people that you were going to be here later. She's here now.
I'm here.
And you're here. This is perfectly timed.
Yes.
Okay, because this is your topic.
Yes.
Senate Republicans Wednesday blocked the Women's Health Protection Act, which of course would have not only codified Roe versus Wade, but also would have allowed abortions just on demand up until the point of birth. But it's interesting because the 2019 version that they had referred to women's health and women seeking abortion services. But the measure blocked in the Senate on Wednesday, they actually they changed the language, and they left out the word woman entirely and substituted it with patient, person, or individual in place of it. And then in the bill text, they wrote, "This act is intended to protect all people with the capacity for pregnancy, cisgender women, transgender men, non-binary individuals, those who identify with a different gender, and others who are unjustly harmed by restrictions on abortion services."
I'm so glad I got here now, running into the studio just so that I can say that only women can get pregnant. I just, honestly, I feel like I endlessly talk about this, and I really am glad to be wearing this shirt
I know, I was
today,
like, this is perfect.
Because on a serious note, it's actually, besides the fact that they're raising us, it's incredibly insulting that people at the highest levels of government are changing language surrounding 50% of the population in order to accommodate a tiny fraction of people who are still women.
1/10 of 1% is what it is.
Who are still women who can get pregnant simply because they don't identify as women. It's so absurd, and I don't know how more people aren't angry about this.
Well, did you see that they're trying to do a womb transplant? I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yes, in India, I believe. Is it in India or Sri Lanka?
One of these countries, yes, they're trying to do the first womb transplant. So that's where we're at in society. Now, like I just said, I interrupted you very rudely, but we're capitulating for 1/10 of 1%. These people are writing in these bills, birthing persons. They can't even say woman. It's very sad. But this is another thing I want to say is when they actually survey and question people, even people that are pro-choice, which I'm not, even believe there should be a limit. There should be a time frame where most people, when they ask them, in the third trimester, they say no. You ask most people, they say up until birth. Most people say no way. But these politicians are saying yes till birth. So it shows you how out of touch they are with what people really want. So that's why I believe they have some sort of sinister, motivation or ulterior motives with trying to get legislation passed where a woman can kill a baby up until the minute it's born. It's disgusting.
I wonder too then what the motivation behind seriously erasing language around women is. I really do wonder what that is, because inclusion is not a good enough reason. And like you said, it is such a small, it's so negligible, the portion of people who identify not as female but get pregnant. It's just so strange to me to consider the fact that we're all sort of participating in this mass psychosis.
Yeah.
Because again,
we're not,
we're not, but
I am a little bit.
Well, yeah, that's true. You are.
Didn't you just ask for one of these?
Yeah.
I'll get you one.
I'm really confused.
Well, you missed it at the beginning of the show when he told us that he can lactate and take care of the baby formula shortage.
Well,
with
I
his
believe
own
men
breast
can
milk.
actually
Chest-
lactate.
sorry,
That's what I'm saying.
chest
I
milk.
I don't think
yes,
that's
it's chest milk.
Chest milk.
Yeah,
Right.
Pete Buttigieg can lactate. I can. Him and I are in a special club, this men's lactation club, and so I just want to support.
You know they call that milk of the feeding parent or the birthing parent.
That's
you know
how-
that's the terminology.
Well, that should be
chest feeding
under social justice. That's how it should
Isn't
be.
it the weirdest thing? I think about this all the time because there's actually a magazine, a very feminist magazine that I share their articles all the time because I agree with them. And I thought to myself the other day, isn't it odd that many of us, particularly on the right wing, started off in the sort of anti-feminist camp because third wave feminism is in fact a cancer. And now we're at a point where I'm like, I agree more with hardline feminists these days than I do, some conservatives. That is the strangest phenomenon.
The traditional sense of feminism.
Of course, yeah. Well, I mean,
not the people who would put feminist in their Twitter bio.
100%. And intersectionalism is an illness, and a lot of the women who do people who participate in feminism today, it's an illness.
Yeah.
But it is strange that some of the women who are like, yeah, guess what? Males shouldn't be in female prisons, or why are you erasing language surrounding motherhood, which is genuinely one of the coolest things that a human can do is birth another person. That is so incredibly neat. And I think that's so odd.
We were just
we
talking
really
about
have
that.
just gone up the edge of the cliff.
Well, and then now I'm a feminist too because I'm trying to defend female
You're
athletes.
the OG feminist.
Yeah, I'm the biggest female feminist there is because you look at Leah Thomas, who I talk about all the time, but I mean, seriously, swam on the men's team for 3 years, ranked 457th, then goes to the women's ranked #1. That goes against
Still dating girls.
Still dating girls is because she's a lesbian and still has her meat and potatoes, as they say. So this is just, that goes against women's rights. So I believe, once again, this is kind of the destabilization of the woman. It's really this weird thing. They're being attacked.
I mean, I guess in some ways we kind of brought it on ourselves, though, because we let things get out of hand. And so it's like feminism spent all this time, third wave feminism spent all this time destroying men and ruining men and making sure that they were sort of the bottom rung of society. And now it's taking aim at its own demographic. It's just the strangest thing. And what's so funny is that it's almost as if feminism became the patriarchy. And I hate to use their own terminology, but that's kind of what it is because the people that they're defending are biologically male.
Right.
It's like a snake eating its tail.
No, I mean, truly, this is the true patriarchy, is men taking over women's sports, taking over their scholarships, taking over their championships.
I just said this in the last video that I made on my channel. Congratulations. Oh, maybe it was the video before that about pregnant men again. Congratulations to the feminist movement. You defeated the patriarchy by becoming the patriarchy.
Great job. Awesome job.
So good.
So to go along with this, there was a Calvin Klein ad for Mother's Day.
Love this.
That featured a transgender man, so a woman dressed living as a. That is so gross. That is so gross. I can't even hardly look at this. It's so freaking disgusting.
That's the future. What do you mean?
God, this is so
Sarah,
gross.
don't be so bigoted. What are you doing?
That's not how it's supposed to be.
That's how you get a Netflix special. That's how you do it. If you want to be on Netflix, you just have to be a man that gets pregnant.
Or a small child that, transitions at 6 and then, doesn't have enough genitalia to make new genitalia, as it were.
I just feel like, Sydney, obviously I'm with you on this, that it's so insulting as a person, as a birthing person, as a person
as
who has birthed
feeding
2 children
seed pod
out of my you-know-what, that
lady bits.
Yeah, thank you. That's of course the Australian would come up with a cute way of saying it. And it's just to say that anyone can do that is just so freaking insulting, especially on a Mother's Day ad. You just have to wonder, since Alex, you were saying it was 0.1%. I really feel like there's going to be a backlash. I really don't believe that most people believe this. I think that they're too scared to speak up. And I think the more they do this, the more pissed off people are going to be.
The problem is that it's infiltrating. I don't know if you guys saw that story out of Scotland, but the problem is it's infiltrating the actual medical scientific community. Not that it hasn't been anyway, but it's really infiltrated.
Yeah.
There was a story that came out of Scotland from, I believe, Edinburgh Napier University, where midwives were being taught that men can give birth. It's so ridiculous.
Oh, I remember hearing about
Through
this.
surgically constructed penises, for one, but also just biological men. They're being taught how to deal with biologically pregnant men.
Wow.
Midwives.
I miss the good old days. You guys remember Octomom when she had 8 babies? That was
yes, and everyone was very cross about it.
Yeah, that was a big deal. That used to be a big deal. A woman having 8 babies. Can we go back to that? I want to go back to that. What was it, Kate plus 8, where a woman has 8 babies? You know.
What was the other one where someone had like 6 of them, and they were all in that like one giant long little feeding thing, and it was like a little conveyor belt.
Well, look at where we went.
That sounds convenient.
It looked convenient, man.
We went from 8 babies in the womb to guys having babies. Wow, it's really weird the trajectory we're on.
And I think that's actually incorrect language, Alex, because you're being very bigoted. They're not actually men. They're gender fluid, demi-boy, girl padlocks, okay? You're very rude.
I apologize.
Now you know. Now you know. All right, we've got more to come, but first we want to thank our sponsor, Upside. I love Upside. So look, every time you go to the pump, you're cringing, all right? Every time you go to a restaurant, you're like, does it cost more than the last time I went? Inflation is hitting us all where it hurts, and it really hurts these days. That is why I started using Upside. This is a really cool app for anyone who buys gas, groceries, or dines out, which is basically all of you, okay? So with every purchase, I am earning cash back thanks to Upside. Upside, you go to the pump, you go to the grocery store, you do all of the things that you are normally doing in the day. This is what I do. All of the things that I normally have to do. I have to buy food for my kids. I have to fill up my gas tank. I'm using Upside. I'm using the app, and I'm getting cash back, which is really, really helpful because everything is expensive and we're all going to be poor soon. But with Upside, it's a no-brainer. It's very, very easy to use, and it is not too good to be true. By the way, in comparison to credit card rewards or loyalty programs, you can earn 3 times more cash back with Upside. Upside users are earning more than $1 million every week, which is probably why they have a 4.8 star rating on the App Store. You got to go download it. All right, I use it. You should too. There's no reason not to. If you don't, you are leaving money on the table. Download the free Upside app and use promo code NEWS to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That is $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more using promo code NEWS. Oh man, you guys are gonna love this next story. This is public school doing good things. This particular one is British Columbia. So 4-year-olds at an Alert Bay, British Columbia school were reportedly given a homework assignment on touching their private body parts. Those of you who are watching can see this worksheet. It asks students to draw pictures of places in their home where they can masturbate privately. Yeah.
Wow.
That's great. This says if you're reading this, it says some children like to touch their own private body parts and some children don't. What places in your home are private? Draw a picture of the private places where you can touch your penis or vulva if you want to.
What the hell?
This is disgusting. I mean, seriously though, I like to be sarcastic and joke around, but I mean, that is child grooming. Like we talk about this all the time, and there's all these teachers saying, "Oh, grooming's not happening." There's no excuse. A kid will naturally figure it out how to rub its genitals or whatever. You don't need a homework assignment to teach this kid unless you're encouraging them to do this earlier.
This is 4-year-olds.
I know.
Alex.
That's what I'm saying. You would never even choose. This is so awkward. This is so weird. The fact that we're actually living in society and the people that are doing this aren't in jail. That's where the issue is. Why isn't this teacher behind bars, in my opinion?
I just want to know, why this was, what the worksheet was. Of all the things you could have picked, of all the things relating to this topic you could have picked, where in the house do you go to sit in the closet so you can touch yourself?
I know.
Creepy.
Draw a picture of it?
It's very creepy. Yeah, how does one draw a garage? Alex?
Yeah, well, I'm not an artist, but I mean, this is disgusting. I love to be sarcastically funny. I keep saying this, but just the fact that this is actually real, and Libs of TikTok shares and exposes all these teachers. But we do have a child grooming issue because we look at the amount of people that, even if the amount of gay people is about the same number, but the amount of people that have actually transitioned their sex or have started having sex earlier, and the amount of pornography that we're having that's being encouraged, we're over-sexualizing our society, and that actually is a serious issue. That's why we have less people getting married. That's why we have, less good interpersonal communication or interpersonal relationships. It's done on purpose because of the sexual grooming, and it's really basically out of the predictive programming's not different than Brave New World. In that book, talked about how we're just over-sexualized. We even watch, you'd go to a main theater and you would see, they'd call them the talkies, and there'd be movies that just flash pornography. That's literally where we're at. It's we are. Forget about George Orwell. We're in the Brave New World where pornography is just thrown in kids' faces where they can't even avoid it at this point.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of really, really negative side effects, not just for adults, but predominantly for children. I mean, kids who access porn really early on, they end up with obviously some developmental issues, but I believe that they're less likely to use protection when they do have sex. They're more likely to get pregnant than women are. There's a plethora of like actually significant social issues that come about as a result of porn, not just relating to what it does to your brain. I find it really interesting though how it's not just porn itself. It's like if you look at advertising, for example, the amount of hypersexualized imagery that we're exposed to has just been getting progressively, well, it's been what's the word when it's rolling? Snowballing. Yeah. It's been snowballing for...
Snowballing.
It's been snowballing for years. And so if you look into this topic in any great capacity, you'll realize that it's not just the actual porn that you're looking at or being exposed to, it's this subtle way of doing things. I'm just grossed out by it. I'm at a point where, I don't know if this is just a Sydney thing or if I would be interested to know if you guys feel like this too. Even when I'm watching people getting intimate in movies and things, I have to fast forward it because I just feel like a voyeur and it creeps me out and I'm like, I don't want to watch this.
Well, speaking of creepy stuff, I have to say this. I still remember the first time, and they weren't even naked boobs, when I saw breasts in a bra, the movie Teen Wolf with Michael J. Fox. I remember that as a kid. Just like that was like one of my first memories.
Really?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Wow. Yes, I remember that clear as day, and I asked my mom, like, oh, I like this. Like, I was like,
You knew.
Yes, I knew immediately.
He was never
the scene,
in question.
it's at the beginning of the movie, and she's not naked, she's in the bra. I remember being like, oh, this is awesome. Yeah, I remember like it was yesterday. So now the over-sexualization.
It has such an impression
on young men.
It does,
that's what I'm trying to say. It does.
Wow. Well, Alex, you mentioned the teacher should be in jail. I was thinking to myself, if I saw my child come home with that assignment, I would be the one in jail.
Yeah, true.
Probably.
Yeah.
But I had someone who follows me on Twitter. I don't know if they watch the show, maybe they'll hear their own story. But they had said that one of their, I forget how old, I think that they said 7 or 8 year old was exposed to Pornhub on the bus ride home from school because one of the other kids had a cell phone and was like on it. And I'm just like, how do you, like, you could be making all of the right choices. And I mean, even if you have your kids in private school, this could happen, right? You don't know. Even if you have your kids in a homeschool co-op, like, you just never know where your kid is going to be exposed to it because it's just dominating the entire culture. It's so maddening as a parent who's trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, when we were growing up, I remember my older brother, he and his friends used to like get on, you have the dial-up to get onto the internet, and then they'd be like, ha ha ha, like pull up a video, and then they get screamed at, and then it would be like, turn that off, and then that would happen, and but then they had no access to phones at this point, so it wasn't like they could just go and sneak into their room and look at it. And so I think that the exposure that we had was still developmentally inappropriate, but it was so much later on in life than the young kids now, because they have little TVs in their pocket, and it's really strange to me. And again, this is probably because I don't have kids as yet, and so I can't really comment, but it is strange to me how parents are so cavalier about giving their kids access.
It's strange to me too.
Okay, good, because even last night I was having
it's called
drinks.
Lazy parenting.
Right, because I was having drinks with some friends, and on the table adjacent to us, the parents they had 2 kids sitting with them, and they'd given the little one who had a pacifier in, they'd given it an
iPad.
What was it, him? They'd given their child an iPad that was propped up, and then the kid had in front of it too a phone, and then the other child had a phone sitting in its lap, and I was like, "What? We don't do coloring books anymore?
No, they don't.
We just shove machines in front of our kids."
You are preaching to the choir right now. It drives me bonkers because I'm, of course, apparently the only mom who still exists who doesn't do that for my kids.
Yeah.
And they see everyone else doing it, and they're like, "Well, why can't I? Can I play on an iPad in the car? Can I do this? Can I do that?" And I'm like, "No, it rots your brain." Next question. I just don't even entertain it.
Give them a Rubik's Cube and make your kids extra smart.
Yeah, I'm like
make geniuses out of them.
Well, so I love that you brought that up because I tweeted a couple days ago, an iPad is not a babysitter.
No, it's
right?
not.
An iPad is not a babysitter. And I had several people, I think, who are conservative minded who pushed back on me a little bit well, it's good for when you're busy. And I'm like, do you think that other parents in previous days before we had screens were not busy ever? Give them their toys. I bet they have a room full of them. Make them play with them. Make them read a book. There are plenty of things that they could be doing.
Well, now we're getting to This Is the News and Why with the personal stories of Alex Stein. So my dad is a bail bondsman. So he gets people out of jail for a living, and I actually have my bail bond license as well. So and all of my babysitters, they didn't like to babysit me, so I was raised by ex-convicts, basically. So that's why I am...
I'm shocked they didn't like to babysit
But
you.
as a matter of fact, the ex-convicts are actually pretty good babysitters. They took care of me. Yeah, you'd be surprised. Well, what I'm saying saying is, it's like at these young age, I feel like they're the biggest target for this. That's why, like in New York, the under 5s still have to wear a mask. It's just typical that the children take the brunt of parents' laziness and kind of the social engineering that's just meant to take advantage of them at such a young age.
Yeah, it's so true. They're getting hit at all angles. All right, let's take a break, and when we get back, let's talk about Elon Musk possibly putting his Twitter takeover on hold. We'll be right back.
Oh yeah, the ever babysitter quit. Yeah, seriously.
Bad?
Oh, so bad.
Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter was put on hold early this morning after he raised new questions about how many of the social media platform's accounts are fake. Now, this is a $44 billion offer for Twitter, and he said that there was supposed to be 5%, less than 5%, I believe, of bots. And he's trying to determine, he tweeted this out earlier. He said, Twitter deal temporarily on hold pending details supporting calculation that spam/fake accounts do indeed represent less than 5% of users. And then he said, still committed to acquisition. So we'll see, but I'm sure a lot of people are like, just bracing themselves until the deal goes through, which is really sad that that's how it has to be.
Yeah, well, nobody cares. Everybody's like, well, why didn't he spend $44 billion in solving world hunger? It's like Jeff Bezos spent that same money buying the Washington Post. They never actually call out these billionaires. And really and truly, I'm the conspiracy theorist. I don't think Elon Musk is going to save free speech. Like, he'll get in control of it, and maybe it'll be a little bit better, but it's just the typical, they give us an inch, they'll take a mile. And he says he's going to reinstate Donald Trump. Well, until he does that, then, I'm still going to be very skeptical.
So Donald Trump said that he would not rejoin Twitter because he wants to stay on Truth Social. Now, he's not super active on Truth Social, but I wonder, he's saying this now, but if the opportunity presented itself, and let's say Elon takes over, he's like, hey, Donald, ball's in your corner. You're welcome on my platform anytime, as long as you don't break, the
Terms
violation,
service,
right, which are equally applied, whether you're conservative or Democrat. Can Trump really resist not coming back?
He would have to come back, in my opinion.
He would have to.
Yes, I think so. I mean, and it would raise the stock price. It would raise, it's like rising tide raises all ships. He has to come back, but at the same time, he might have principles, and since he got kicked off, he might not.
Did you just say Donald Trump might have principles?
I know. Yeah, I mean, and he was,
Love the guy, by the way. Don't send me hate
We love
mail.
him. Yeah, Donald Trump is so good, and I love Stormy Daniels as well, and I love grabbing girls, and I love everything he does. So yes. So we love Donald Trump. Everything he does is perfect.
Grabbing girls, that's a new one, Alex.
That's what you grab them by.
But
you know what?
in lovingly.
In a loving way, yes. That's the most loving way to grab
Well,
a
I
girl.
would like to just point out, while we're on this subject, he did very clearly say they let you.
Yes,
which
when you're a
that's
celebrity.
consensual.
But on a serious note,
just
listen.
to point out.
Then they complain about it later, though, when it's
Right.
advantageous.
It was consensual.
No politician is going to be perfect, and Donald Trump is a million times better than Joe Biden. But really, where Donald Trump is so effective is when he was hosting The Apprentice. He is the entertainer, the celebrity. So that's why we need him on Twitter, because when he calls people losers and his haters, that is the best entertainment. So as a politician, he's the most entertaining politician probably to ever exist. In my
He'll
opinion.
just siphon people off of Twitter to get them to go and join Truth. That's what'll happen.
Yeah, but
Because he hasn't done a great job of that so far.
Well, you know what? They just
Their rollout
cocked up
was
the rollout.
awful. Yeah.
Is that considered swearing on your show?
I don't even.
It's roostered.
didn't
They
hear.
roostered up the rollout
I don't think
because
so.
they.
No one knows what it means, so no.
Yeah.
Well, they messed it up. They messed up the rollout because. Like, I tried to join. Firstly, I couldn't even get through the initial page on my laptop, and then they don't even have the app for Android, which is super irritating. A bunch of people have Androids, me included, because I don't support Apple because it's a demon company.
Yeah, at their factories in China, they have suicide nets at the Foxconn
That's okay.
factories.
I would. I mean, I'll be there to catch them.
Yeah.
I'll just want my phone that doesn't have the pregnant man emoji, which mine will not acknowledge. So
That's just Bill Gates.
Yeah.
I'll catch the
not a
people
pregnant
as
man.
they jump out, as
No,
long as
that's
they don't have
the
to
Apple
do it.
factories, the Foxconn factories in China.
Wait, are you saying Samsung factories have
No,
people
the
committing
Apple
suicide?
the Apple
Okay.
factories has nets. Foxconn factories, you can Google this, look it up. They actually have suicide nets because so many employees are jumping off.
Well, that makes sense because they focus their attention more on virtue signaling than they do looking after their employees.
Of course.
Well, that just makes it like a fun game to do now.
Yeah.
There's a net to catch you.
Yeah.
Yeah, just jump out and go back in. That's actually really disturbing.
Are you kidding?
That's
This is a huge thing. Yeah,
I watched
no,
a
it's most
documentary
disturbing.
about many of those factories and how utterly horrible the working conditions are. And so, like, actually, jokes aside, that's appalling.
Yeah.
That is genuinely appalling. So, this is the nature of the leftist machine. Is you have people who are so utterly downtrodden and miserable at their job that they want to commit suicide at their place of work. While these people simultaneously give us things that nobody asked for, but they think is going to, win them favor somewhere down the line with all the mentally ill people.
Well, I talk about this all the time.
Pick your mentally ill fighter, I guess.
This is the problem, is these multinational corporations like Apple or like Pfizer that want to sell these vaccines all over the world, they actually destabilize America in order to gain global dominance, in order so they don't have the same regulations in China. Now, if they had to make the iPhone in San Francisco, the iPhone's going to be $10,000. Well, that might actually be a good thing if the employees aren't killing themselves. That's the problem. Is this outsourcing is a typical example of America last, and that happened 10 to 20 years ago. And it's just more globalization and puts America on the back burner.
I think it's worse than that, though. Not just the America last thing, but it's also that, we care about human rights until they're actually not the rights of the people from the country in which they grew up.
Of course.
So they don't give a crap about the lives of a Chinese person working in, some factory. But then when it comes to, let's all save the people in the United States. So it's this like weird mashup how they don't give a crap about their own citizens, but they do enough to send labor overseas so that it's cheaper where people are going to want to throw themselves out of a building. Does that make sense?
Yes, but look at
I'm putting this together as I'm talking.
City, but any Pride Month, every single corporation is going to put a gay pride flag.
Yes.
Yet their same Twitter accounts and their same Facebook accounts in Saudi Arabia do not have a pride flag. United Arab Emirates. You look at the NBA, in 2016, they moved their All-Star game out of Charlotte because they had a bathroom ban bill. Yet now they're going to be playing preseason games in the United Arab Emirates where it's illegal to be gay. So these corporations are the biggest hypocrites that exist. So
all right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, so this morning, the official White House Twitter tweeted out, when President Biden took office, millions were unemployed and there was no vaccine available. In the last 15 months, the economy has created 8.3 million jobs and the unemployment rate stands at 3.6%, the fastest decline in unemployment to start a president's term ever recorded.
I hate these
Actually,
people.
this was yesterday afternoon, I believe.
grief.
But so it's interesting because they say there was no vaccine available.
false.
Very false. Interestingly enough, I didn't see the misleading or misinformation tag on that particular tweet from the White House. There were vaccines available for like weeks before Joe Biden took office. And I think, didn't Biden have like 1 or 2 doses by the time he took office? So it's weird that he's saying there was no vaccine available when he, in fact, himself had already had the vaccine.
Well, they can lie, and it's just very similar. I think they had a similar tweet that inflation the earlier month was 8.5%, and now this month it was 8.3%. So, we're trending in the right direction. It's like, give me a break. These people will lie or use the truth to just, laugh in our face. Like I say, they're tinkling on us and telling us it's raining.
They are. Okay, so here are the dates. Here are the dates. His first dose was December 21st, 2020. His second dose was January 13th, 2021.
Yeah. And
so this is how dates work. If the date is before
chronological
the
order
other, right? If the date is before the other date, then it already happened. You're welcome.
Donald Trump, he talks about it all the time. Operation Warp Speed was his greatest accomplishment, and so I think that this shows it that Operation Warp Speed is what got Joe Biden and Kamala Harris both vaccinated.
Isn't it just? It's like so. It's a weird spot for me because like I never agree. Like I'm uncomfortable with Operation Warp Speed. I'm obviously like uncomfortable with the vaccine and have been very critical of it as a whole.
It's the best thing ever.
Sorry, you're right.
Yes.
But it also just like drives me mad to hear them taking credit for what Donald Trump did. You know, like I don't even think it's like necessarily like a good thing, but they're touting it as a good thing and pretending like they did it, and it's just like
Well, it's just to show that we're both hypocrites because, listen, I have to make this point very quickly. This is the problem with the Roe versus Wade getting overturned. We just went for 2 years, all the people on the conservative side have said, I don't want the government making any health care decisions. And then you had the left saying, well, we should have vaccine mandates and the government should be involved in our health care. And then now the left is saying, my body, my choice. And now the right is saying, well, we want the government involved in our health care decisions. So this is what it's meant to do. It's meant to give us ammo to argue with each other. So we're constantly infighting and not actually going after the politicians that are making terrible legislation that's ruining our lives.
It's also meant to distract from the fact that there's a bunch of other things happening too that are so bad. Like I was just having a conversation with someone recently who was telling me some bits and pieces about the oil industry. It's going to get really bad, guys.
Hold on. I need to make sure everyone can find out where they can get this.
You can get
awesome
these at
shirt.
sydneywatson.com/merch. I have a bunch of female ones, men ones coming. These are very good.
And if you need my breast milk, go to BlazeTV.com.